You know, Memorial Day is known as a big travel holiday, which kind of got us thinking about the new I-5 bridge project, also known as IBR. Planners expect to start construction in 2026 there across the Columbia River from Portland to Vancouver. That's also when they're going to start collecting tolls as well on the current bridges, you know, to help pay for the new ones. The tolls and construction delays are probably your biggest upcoming headache. But do you ever think about the people who live in the path of that new construction? We did. Those people and their buildings. That's our big story tonight. The core of the project is a new pair of I-5 bridges over the Columbia River, but it also includes a light rail extension, upgrades to the surrounding 5 miles of I-5, and multiple smaller new bridges on the Oregon side of Hayden Island. Those additions are going to take up a lot of space, and some of that space is currently occupied by, you know, things like restaurants and stores and offices and, yep, people's homes. So what happens when you have land that the government needs for a project, for a public works project? Well, if you're interested in selling, they'd be happy to buy it from you. And if you're not, they're going to buy it anyway. The beauty and beast of eminent domain. And while there's nothing official out yet, many of the people who are probably in the path of construction have started connecting the dots. Our transportation expert, digital reporter Anthony Masuk has our story.
It makes me mad. You know, I mean, this was supposed to be our forever home.
Liz Schaub has lived in her house in Vancouver's Shumway neighborhood for 33 years. She says her first hint that there might be a problem came about a year ago when the IBR team asked to conduct survey work on the property.
We got a letter in the mail, and my husband was like, hon, you need to come in here. And so he read it, and I'm like, well, that's not good.
I'm the last one to know anything.
Sarah Whitney rents her house 1 block north of Liz, and she said she hasn't heard anything directly from IBR. But her landlords found out, and they mentioned it to her.
Well, as soon as I heard, and as soon as I kind of figured out what was going on, I freaked out. I was pretty scared. I was like, am I going to have to move in the next few months? Should I re-sign my lease? It was actually right before my lease got re-signed about 2 months ago. So I was wondering if I should resign. I was wondering if I should just move and get it out of the way, if it's going to get taken anyway. But I kind of calmed down since then, since I figured out it might be a little while.
Sarah and Liz live almost 2 miles north of the I-5 bridge, but their street is right next to the I-5 interchange with SR 500, where IBR wants to add a bypass off-ramp for drivers on I-5 South heading to 4th Plain Boulevard. But the interchange already runs right up against Liz and Sarah's street, so that new ramp to the west could end up going right through their living rooms. Maps made public by the project so far don't show which properties will need to be bought out to make room for the off-ramp, but there's another map that does. And it was quite the process to track that down. Let's explain. As part of the ongoing federal environmental review process, the IBR team is required to create a draft environmental impact statement, or EIS, a massive document that outlines every aspect of the project in fine detail, with lots of technical studies and data. That includes the final configuration of the new bridges. Right now, there are still a few different options under consideration, as well as which properties will potentially need to be acquired. The scheduled release date of that document has been delayed multiple times, most recently from spring 2024 to an unspecified date later in the year. So property owners who were previously expecting definitive answers right around now are still waiting.
There's just no answers.
That includes Brenda, who lives a block away from Liz.
They come in and they talk about, well, you know, it's going to be fair, it's going to be equitable, you know, the people that are going to build it are going to be, you know, and I'm like, I don't care about that. I want to know what you're going to do with my house, if anything. And then we'll talk about fair and equitable for the price you give me.
But while the official draft EIS is still missing in action, a group of local activists and advocacy groups calling themselves the Just Crossing Alliance have been campaigning against the IBR project's current design. Leader Chris Smith says the group supports replacing the bridge itself, including with light rail, but that's where things should stop.
So the priority of the seismic replacement has been used as a catch-all to bring in this other freeway expansion for 5 miles. We'd love to see the scope narrowed and therefore the cost reduced so that those funds can go to other very important uses.
A few months ago, the group filed a public records request with Metro, asking for any pieces of the EIS that the bridge team had privately shared for the agency to review. Jackpot. They got dozens of documents, totaling more than 1,000 pages, and posted them on their website. To verify their authenticity, KGW submitted its own records request to Metro, and received the same set of documents. They represent a jumble of small pieces, and some were sent to Metro more than a year ago, so they could be outdated. IBR basically said as much when asked for comment, telling KGW, since the version made available through the request was released, the document has gone through and continues to go through several rounds of vetting and revisions. That being said, the documents do offer some significant new insights, including this color-coded map of potential property acquisitions. The map document states that the project may need to fully or partly acquire a total of 176 parcels, which would displace 43 residential units and 33 businesses. The biggest cluster of acquisitions is on Hayden Island, where the freeway will need to shift west to connect to the new bridges. 2 houseboat docks in the Portland Harbor are also apparently in the way. Across the river in downtown Vancouver, the 6-story Hurley office building overlaps with the light rail line, and the adjacent office of Pacific Energy Concepts appears to be in the way of a local street extension.
All the drawings and diagrams, none of them I've seen, they all include mowing down my building, but also they won't let me know if that's the case or not.
CEO Keith Scott says he's trying to start making contingency plans for a move, and IBR has responded when he's reached out, but without a lot of definitive answers.
Without them being fully funded, they were like, hey, we can't, this is 2 steps ahead of where we're really at right now.
Up near SR 500, all of Sarah's block is coded for acquisition, along with most of Liz's block.
Oh, yeah.
It is incredibly frustrating.
Brenda's block is coded for partial acquisition, but she says IBR has done survey work on her property too, and she's gotten mixed signals about whether her house would be spared.
Well, then these guys said, well, we're going to do from 39th, which is up there, and all the way down. And so to do that, if we have to raise this sound wall here, then we're going to have to take the house because we're going to have to drive these big bolts underneath.
And it makes me angry.
For Liz and Brenda, the situation feels all too familiar. And if you've lived in the Portland-Vancouver area for a while, you can probably guess why. The IBR project is technically a revival of a previous major attempt at a new I-5 bridge, dubbed the Columbia River Crossing, or CRC. The CRC project famously imploded in 2013, before any shovels hit the dirt, but it got far enough into development for the planners to start pursuing property acquisitions, and Liz and Brenda both say their houses were in the crosshairs back then, too.
Last time, 20 years ago, the gal goes, we want to acquire your house. And I go, can you give me a 4-letter word for acquire? I don't get it. I don't understand what acquire is. I do understand. Anyway, and the gal goes, well, we just want to acquire your house. And I said, no, you want to take my house. Ain't gonna happen, honey.
The CRC would have impacted much of the same slice of Hayden Island. The current property acquisitions document states that IBR's plan will displace fewer island businesses, though it adds that's in part because several of those businesses have closed down anyway in the past decade. But not every building on the IBR list was around in the CRC days, especially in Vancouver's rapidly growing downtown and waterfront districts. The Hurley building is practically brand new, built on a previously vacant lot. It opened in 2020. The Pacific Energy Concepts headquarters next door opened in 2017 after renovating a former car repair shop. Scott says he was betting on upcoming redevelopment projects to revitalize the area, and the bet paid off. But that means finding a new place today would be that much harder.
It will be very, very challenging and also very, very expensive to recreate what we have here. Some of my homework I've been doing and just kind of research, trying to figure out alternatives. All the alternatives are going to be at a significant financial investment for us. And so I don't know how they plan on, taking care of us and figuring that out, but I've been just doing a lot of research on the eminent domain process and learning what to expect.
But regardless of whether this is their first or second rodeo, the common feeling among all the property owners who spoke to KGW was a sense of frustration at not being able to know for certain what's going to happen or when.
I haven't cleaned because if they're going to take my house and they're just going to demolish it, why? I'm not going to do it.
We were in limbo on the last one, and we're in limbo on this one. And so that's frustrating and of not knowing.
In Vancouver, Anthony Masuk, KGW News.
Thanks, Anthony. Great report there. We contacted the IBR to ask about property acquisitions, buying or taking those properties. They sent us a statement. It says in part, the IBR program will do everything feasible to avoid, minimize, and mitigate impacts associated with its investments. No final decision has been made about what will be built, and several steps remain before discussions around specific property impacts begin. Any affected property owners will be contacted well before construction if their property may be impacted. They went on to say that the draft environmental impact statement will list potential property impacts when it comes out later this year, but formal discussions about buying property will not happen until the final version of that document, which comes out and the federal government gives a project a green light to start construction. So that whole thing, well, that's not going to happen until next year. So you folks who are waiting for a clear yes or no, sorry, you're going to have to keep waiting. In the meantime, what's going through your mind about all this? Anytime we talk about eminent domain, it certainly fires up a whole bunch of you. Share your thoughts, will you? Send us an email. The address is thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090.